G'day, gang. Simo and Ed and Ryan back here again for another episode of the Track Growth Show. Last week, we spoke to a mechanic, and boy, was it revealing. And this week is our second part of it. Strange things happen when you chat to a mechanic. Here we go.
The simple thing of even how you pack your carts away will determine how you start your day the next day. You know that, okay, 6 of these carts are the best carts. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we've got a team of 7 people, So what you do is you get those carts out first because, those are your 6 best carts. Then the other ones you just maintain and move from there.
But you've got a problem there, haven't you?
It's got to be
That's
training.
really interesting. If you've got 6 really good carts, you've got 7 people coming in the morning.
At least you've got one.
You're going to have somebody complaining that they've got the slow cart.
That's right. So what you do is now you take the last one.
Same pace carts together.
That's right. And it's always important that a mechanic needs to try and drive those carts all the time. They can't just be a mechanic, because the marshals are the ones that take the carts out, they drive, they're having a gas, they're having fun, Body weight is different. So one day 7 is fast, cart 9 is fast the next day because, the skinny guy or the skinny lady jumped in the cart and was fast. So as a mechanic, he's the same weight, or she's the same weight, drives every single cart, they will understand those carts like it's their own. They will know which are their babies. 7, 6, 5 are my best, so I'll keep those aside. Those ones here, these are my problem ones. And then you have, from the problem ones, you actually have the worst ones, where you know that you're going to talk to the boss all the time and say, hey, boss, I think this one here, we need to replace the chassis because we've welded about too many times now. So you have that maintenance routine, and you got to be on top of it. You got to be on top of it all the time. You can't just like swap and take a part off this one and put it on that one. You can't do that. And that boils down to the stock levels that you're talking about, because then you need to have enough stock to maintain the fleet instead of stripping one cart and building another one because, that's the best cart. So you'll take off the naughty kid over here and give the good kid. You can't do that because you'll always chase your tail off. You'll always be in a shambles.
I mean, the number of times I've seen what I call the cart graveyard, where the mechanics have done that exactly it. They've got 3 or 4 parts over in the corner of the workshop, and they're missing parts.
Yep.
It's
the education in that, Simon. The education in that is to the purchaser, the person that actually buys spare parts from Fastline. Is the one that we need to talk to, because we need to educate them that it's cheaper to stock spares than to go and gain spares.
Well, that's exactly it. Those 3 carts are losing a track
business.
£3 a minute, £1 each a minute. There's roughly
exactly, and that's the education part now. And then from that, the purchaser or the owner can go to the mechanic and say, I don't want you to touch that anymore. I want you to rebuild it. A perfect example again is Fast Lane with Dean. Mm-hmm. He had a container of a whole fleet of carts. And I got a hold of Fast Lane and I said, well, I need some space, please. And then next thing, he's got double the sales because he's got double the fleet of carts. And then he could order more space and keep in stock. Mm-hmm. And then it ended up being where he got enough money and then he decided to buy, I don't know, some more Remos or something. I don't know what he bought. But because of that, he wasn't making money with his karting. So he ended up doing party buses and things like that. And he wasn't actually concentrating on the track itself because it wasn't making the money that it should. But then when you go and you now change the mindset, you change the way of operating and say, look what happens now. Now you can have 4 carts that are not working properly. And the customers are still happy because now you've got more carts to actually use instead of just the 10. Now you've got 20 carts. So even 4 carts go, you've still got another 6 to go. So, and then it's comfortable. It's more comfortable. The track marshals are comfortable because they're not worried to go and bring a cart in and wait for it to get fixed to take it out again because they're under pressure. They just go and swap it. Hey, mate, there's another problem here. This is what needs to happen. Onto another cart, off they go. No problem. Mechanic got time to fix it as well because another cart is out on the road. So, on the track. So that's the mindset and educational stuff that needs to happen.
I think too many track owners would see spare parts and the mechanics area as a cost center,
Mhm.
Big time.
whereas
Massively.
it's actually a profit center
Yes, it is.
when it's done right.
Yep.
Well, when it addresses the customer issue, right? And as soon as you put your customer at the heart of your business, you'll never go wrong.
Never.
So if they can start with that and then start to realize the knock-on effects, it isn't a cost center. I mean, it goes into the accounting as a cost center, but the wise track owner will understand the revenue it generates.
It generates. And what ended up happening at Fast Lane is that because now we had stock, he started selling some of the space to the other guys around in the area. Yeah. So he was making more money again on top of it. You know,
Making their cars slower.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But it was just that kind of like, it was just that kind of like, mindset. And when you realize, when you actually switched on and say, oh, wow, this is, and it all it took was a break, because I tried for months. I tried like 4 or 5 months to get him out of that. Why do I need to go strip that go-kart? Why can't I make that go-kart work? Oh, now we don't have money to buy space for that. I'd rather buy a new fleet if you're going to fix that on. I said, no, you don't. Let me show you, and then you gave me a task. Well, there's 5 there, make them work. Yeah, it took me 2 weeks. A lot of negotiations with the dean and fast line about prices and stuff. But eventually I got the first order, built those 5 up, and he had 5 extra carts. Then he was like, wow, build the next 5, and next thing the container got moved because it was empty. There was axles in there was rubbish, and then next thing the container was gone and he extended the track. Guess what? Now it's a faster, wide, larger track, and so it just was a knock-on effect. It was a big knock-on effect that you got to realize afterwards, and we still talk now and again. You ask me for advice now and again, so it was pretty good.
Let's imagine for a moment that we've got a kart track owner watching this video, and they're watching this video and they're thinking that it sounds like some of the issues that Ryan's mentioned. I've heard of these issues.
I've heard of these before.
But where do you
and that's the way I try and talk. I
conversation?
try and talk like because I was there. I'm hands-on, so I try and talk like a mechanic. I try and talk like a marshal, because I was actually.
So where do you start that conversation though? If you've got a track that's been running the same way for 3 or 4 years and they recognise some of these issues, where do you draw the line now? Where do you build from? Where do you start the conversation?
BGEQ.
I love it. Viewers, you may not know what a BGQ is. If you don't, you got to look at some of the other videos we've done before. A BGQ is
a bloody good question.
Good question.
There you go.
What you just asked was a BGQ.
But that's what it is.
It was a bloody good question what you just asked, because where do you start? How do you get them to change their mindset? Okay, my experience is to go and see, right? So you go and see where their problems are. You then say, oh, well, you ask the question, what are you really worried about? That's it. What are you worried about your business? Maybe it's revenue, maybe it's the staff members, maybe you can't get good mechanics. It's maybe the where you are distance-wise, maybe you're too far. It's a lot of those questions that come up. But from that, you ask another big BGQ, because and then you start that conversation. So it's always boils back to the slides that I had with Simon yesterday. Very, very important, and I was very interested and intrigued, and that's why I was giving you praise, Simon, because it's what I'll do in a normal circumstance. You do ask those questions because you have to understand what the core of that business is and where they want to go for you to actually start the conversation to get their mindset different. If they say, I just want it as a normal 9-to-5 operation, they're not worried about anything, which directions to take. You understand how to ask the next questions or to take the next step. If I just come in there and I walk in and I say, oh man, that's shit, that's rubbish. No, you shouldn't do that. Oh, why are you doing it that way? Automatically I lose that confidence or trust, because it's like, who's this guy coming just to try and change my business? So it is a fine line, but it's a fine line that you can make a no line. You can just be challenged.
For me, I'm not sure, because there's lots of scenarios out there, but
plenty.
I think if I was coming in as a track owner and I've got a mechanic and I'm not particularly mechanically minded, I think I would probably just tell them we're going for lunch.
Yep.
And I would take them away from the track,
Away
for
from
the
the
first
track,
meeting.
That's right.
And that would be unlimited amount of time. I don't care what else is going on at the track. This is where we draw the line. So, and I think I would structure that just to sit down and go, look, I really want you to start telling me what's going on, where we might be able to head.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you some about the vision of what I've got in mind, and there'll be a lot of crossover there. And when we cross over, that'll be a nice, easy decision. We'll sort it out. And where we don't maybe share the same ideas, we'll discuss them.
100%.
And I'm the track owner, so I'll win. No.
You started that relationship. You started in that friendship relationship where it's easier to talk to. Simon mentioned something yesterday, if I can remember well, is friends buy from friends. And even if you're not friends, you still buy from friends or something like that, Simon?
Yeah, Jeffrey Gittimer.
Jeffrey Gittimer. All things being equal, people buy from their friends.
That's right.
All things not being equal, people still buy from their friends.
Buy from their friends. Exactly. So what you just said there was actually quite true. You understand, if it's a mechanic-minded person, obviously they want to take you straight to the problem because they probably find the problem or see it. Maybe they know exactly what to do and they might direct you there straight away. But if they're like, it's ours, and then and also they want to talk around people, then yeah, let's go for coffee, let's go for lunch, let's have a beer, whatever, and get that trust of I can tell you anything. And once you have that trust, you get to find out the nitty-gritty.
I'd also have to set that up because I don't want so I can imagine if you're a really busy track, and there's lots of busy tracks around the globe, especially right now, it's things that picked up. But if you've got cart after cart after cart coming through, you can just get lost in what is in front of you. And what I'd really need from that conversation if I'm a track owner with the mechanic is I want to get them up to the level where we're thinking more strategically now.
Yeah.
And they're saying things like, it's crazy. I've had to replace 5 clutches, or only the right-hand side brake pad is going. Have we got the track set up for the optimal use? And what options have we got? And that's where I want the conversation.
Yeah. And corner 9, we keep having incidents at corner 9, which is 20% of your maintenance bill.
Yeah.
So can we address corner 9, make it a little less tight, give them some room there, and I think we can cut your maintenance bill by 10-15%.
Yeah, I mean that would be an amazing conversation to have.
Yes.
I mean, you got that from the off, but I think if you're a track owner, it's your responsibility because it's your business, but you set the tone for the meeting, and the response you get is in the quality of questions you ask.
Absolutely,
and that's where it all starts. I mean, I would obviously take it a step further after those meetings and say, okay, well, if you don't mind, I want to talk to your mechanic and some of your track marshals, because they also, but and the way to address it again is you going like a track marshal, going like a mechanic. You're not going as some hierarchy guru that's come to change things or try and fix things. You go in there and you're like, oh man, you have a conversation, even be a track marshal for 1 or 2 sessions. And experience that, experience, are the tires too high? The track marshals have to climb over all the time. The incident in track 9, they have to climb over 6 tires. And by the time, because that corner 9 is a problem, and they keep on climbing over there, we put a track marshal there. Do we have now another track marshal to cover here? So a lot of those things you got to look at. And it's quite important to understand that, because that's where the breakdown boils down to. There's no communication. The track marshal's scared to talk to the owner to say, it's too tiresome, because they're scared to get fired. And because I see that a lot. As soon as they make one complaint, they're out the door. And it's not good. But again, I will actually jump in the go-kart and drive and say, can I drive, please? Okay, for me, I'm kind of lucky because I do racing still, so I have that feel. I have a feel of a go-kart, and I feel of bogging. If it bogs down, is it causing a problem? Because with drive belts and red clutches, as soon as you go slow in a corner and try and put your foot down, you're not going to go anywhere too in a hurry. And then you get someone that's flying into the corner and you bogging. Guess what happens? So there's a lot of that stuff that needs to be, but it starts off from what you said. It is have that conversation first. Ask the question.
I think the other issue potentially is that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter any business. I can just look at Fastline here. I know that if I'll just do hands in the air wave, we get some hi viewers. I know that if I go into any business and I ask people on the whole, how are things? They go, it's all right.
Yes, that's all right.
That's a poor question because people will put up with quite a lot of pain. They don't realize they're in pain half the time. It's only when the pain becomes so great. They go, actually, there is a problem. And you're like, how long has this been going on for? Like 10 months. You go, why didn't you tell me back then? Well, it felt all right then. But after a while, me and my brother, when we were younger, like we used to fight all the time. We're thick as thieves. We really get on well, but every day we'd have a fight. And then in the end, it was getting silly. So what we used to do was try and pin each other down. And with just one knuckle, just hit one spot. And you start, and to start with, it's fine, and that's the analogy. And then after a while, if you can't get out, after a while, it starts to bruise up. Now you're in a weird.
Now you're bruised now.
That's such a great analogy for business, but for go-kart tracks, there's stuff your marshals are probably doing.
Yeah,
climbing over 6 tires. Go, well, that's just what we have to do. And you, as the track owner, sit there going, that isn't what we have to do.
No,
exactly. We can change almost anything in business to make it better.
Make it easier. So it's for me. It always boils down to communication. That Monday meeting, get everyone in, even though they worked on a Sunday. Just try and get it. Now there's the beauty now is this stuff. We can have computers. So the ones that worked until 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, you can be at home and come online. On the day off and have that meeting, have the conversation. And because obviously, you're rotating your staff and rosters and things like that. So it's important to have that meeting and then start your Tuesday like a Monday of any normal business and pump away, because now you're confident, you can sell, you have a team that's happy, it's important, very important.
I think it all starts with the change of mindset. And a change of mindset from the owner.
Yep.
Because you can think, oh, we're doing all right.
Yep.
We've got the revenue coming in. But you've got to go in with the attitude, oh, well, we can do things better. And when you come in with that mindset, all of a sudden you start to question things. And it really helps. It really helps, like you said, being a marshal. Going and go and be a grease monkey for a day. Half a day. Right. And then all of a sudden you sit there and you go, why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it easier? What if we got you a cart lift?
That's right.
Wouldn't that make it easier to lift these carts up onto the trolley?
Yeah.
What if we took that level of tires? It's still within regulations. We could take a level off and maybe put some step behind it so it's a bit easier.
Yeah, and for the faster tracks, you need things like chassis straighteners. So at Kingston Park, they've got long straights, and you get someone that doesn't know how to drive. They slow in the corner, they T-bone each other. Next thing you got a bent chassis. While they're swapping carts or the next group, that cart comes into the workshop. I've designed and built a chassis straightener where you pick up the cart, put it on the stand, bolt it down. Well, you just chain it up quickly, and then you just straighten it. And there's lasers that I was using. Once the laser step, put the cart on the ground, and off it went onto the next station as a backup. And I designed that. And those are little tricks of the trade that doesn't get taught from the owner. They rely on the mechanic doing that. And I learned that from professional racing. You come in off a race, your chassis is bent, you quickly onto the straightener, you straighten it, and then you on to the next race, because there's no time to wait around for a new chassis or anything. So I thought, oh, why don't I just use that for here? Because the guys are complaining the carts are bent and they go in a corner, the one wheel is lifting up, and because the chassis is bent, and then we fix that. And I designed and built a chassis straightener. Cool. Just a square frame with a counterweight like leverage on the other side. Front chassis comes on top. You just jack it up, whichever side is bent, just jack up the other side, counteract it, and you got a cut for the next race. Yeah, okay, come Monday or the next day in the morning before you open up, you can physically look at that cart now and analyze if it's going to bend again or it's got a crack. But those quick thinking, it helps keep the business going and help keep the marshals comfortable to supply carts to the sales team, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, or the race director. So, you know, it's a lot of tricks of the trade, but it starts from that communication from the top. And then you slowly work your way down to understand, you know, what's happening on the ground and get involved, you know, but it'll take a couple of days, but you get involved and then you start seeing, because obviously, again, every marshal, every mechanic, every manager, every owner, even ladies behind the counter, even the cleaners, they all are different characters. So, you know, you have to just try and understand, because you may get someone that just doesn't like what they do. And even a shit thing is sorry, even a good thing is shit, you know. So, you know, it's just about mindsets, education, getting people comfortable. And that Monday meeting will determine from the owner will determine, oh, well, this person here is always negative, you know, do I really need them, you know? Because there's 8 other people that are good, and then this one is not, you know.
It's got to be driven by the owner too.
Driven by the owner.
I was at a conference and I saw this guy get up. He owned a very large printing business, probably turnover of 10 or 15 million, I think it was.
He's bigger than that, isn't he? It's about 60, 70 mil.
Is he? Well, there you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
And what was really interesting was that he had created an ethos in his company where everybody knew how they contributed to profit. So even the cleaner, you ask the cleaner, how do you contribute to profit? Well, the cleaner would turn around and go, well, you know, by keeping the meeting rooms clean and serving drinks and cakes to potential customers, I can help the boss, the sales team, win that job.
Yep, correct.
You know,
it takes time, because I did this in my boardroom. I used to have a stopwatch, and the first few, there'd be like a new director would turn up, so they'd be great, I'm a director. But boy, did they not realize that's just the start. Now here we go. This is where the work gets done. Let's start the stopwatch, go. And they'd be like, right, so it was always on 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks, I was tasked with doing this. It's on target. It's like, there's a bit of a problem, but I think I'll get there. Oh boy, we're behind. Cool. I was working on this project, and my next 2 weeks look like this. And I go, yeah, do you need any help with anything? Yes, no, go. And they had about 60 to 90 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes if we had a really complex thing going on. I could just go, right, go around the room. If it was a long, so the most people I had in my boardroom at any one time, no more than 12, for reasons I'll bore you with another day, typically up to about 8. Yep. So within 20 minutes, all the directors know what's going on in the business. We've got the traffic light system, but right, and hearing that's a track owner, you're possibly thinking that's a brilliant idea, right? And it's so simple. Yeah. Right. It took, I want to say about 14, 15 weeks to beat it into them. Like it took 7 or 8 sessions to get the information I needed and to explain to them why I needed it in this format and why we didn't have time for them to ramble on about, you know, everything that was going on with their project. Now, if there is a problem and I've got the information, I could take things offline, but I can't take 7 or 8 other directors offline while we all go and discuss your problem. No. And then that's where they realise that actually it's quite isolating being a director, because like the buck stops with you and you said you'd deliver. So like, you know, bad luck for you. We're going to be working closer together for 2 weeks. You know, that's not the thing to take away from it. It's how you set it up. It's the information you want. It's getting your staff to understand what it is you're really asking them for. And even at quite a high boardroom level, it was taking them time to get their head around simple information that was just required to keep the business ticking over.
Cool.
Yeah. No, brilliant. I actually like that idea as well.
Probably a good point to end the video there.
Just getting into that.
Yeah, I know, but we'll be here for weeks.
Sounds good to me. We've just done a whole year of videos.
Yeah.
We've got to, let's do another year on this.
Yep. Right, so, well, it's goodbye from me.
Cheerio from me.
Guru for me.
And we'll see you next time.
Adios.